here. Well, hey everyone, it is Ellen Teresa from Advocate of Soul podcast. And as many of you know, I love the human journey. And now we're into 2026. I've been doing this the last couple of years, and we've had the opportunity to hear so many different perspectives, so many different ideas about life and about the human journey, about awakening, about health, about nutrition. And this time I'm bringing on for the very first interview of 2026, Debra Simmons, who I surprisingly met. Oddly, if I remember correctly, Deb, I saw something come up in a community group online, which then caused me to connect to one of the summits that you were doing, and we'll talk more about that. And I was just so overwhelmed and overjoyed by the presence that the group that you started called Dare to Be You brings to the table. And so I was like, I need to have you on. I need people to hear your journey. And so, Debra, I won't keep going on and on. I want you just to show yourself right here to be who you are. Thank you for being here today.
Oh no, thank you. Thank you. It's absolutely my pleasure. And it was such a delight to see your face popping up on our summit. It was just so, your smile, everything, it was great. And you asked some beautiful, beautiful questions. And that's what's behind us doing the summits. It is like, yeah, come on in and ask questions, delve in, see. I don't just before we started here, I said, I don't think I'm right about everything. That's not what I'm here to kind of say, Deb knows everything. I absolutely don't. I've been on quite a journey, and I will share some of that. And I have learned some things. And the reason our group, our business, everything we do is called Dare to Be You was because one of the main things that I learned was pretty much my entire life. I made the decision when I was very young that I wasn't good enough, so I wouldn't be me. I would be what other people wanted me to be, needed me to be, whatever, in that way. And the realizations of what a mistake that had been, that wasn't a good idea. And to come back to actually being me. And that, as I said, that doesn't mean I'm right about everything. That doesn't mean I know everything. That doesn't mean any of that at all. It just makes life, wow. I believe we all come here with some beautiful, beautiful gifts. And if we are sharing our gifts, they will, in whatever way they do, it will gift other people and bring something beautiful. So be you, dare to be
Be
you.
you. Be you is definitely a theme, really. It really is. Even for 2026, be you is a theme. I think we've been so conditioned and so brought up with so many different ways of living and doing and being. And it's just like, who are we? Where are we? What is the authentic Debra? What is the authentic Ellen? So, Deb, take us back, okay, to what your journey looked like. And then for those of you who are new to this, we're going to go into something called the three principles, which you discovered, and then where you are today. So the platform's yours.
Cool. Okay. So this was something I realized later on and afterwards, but I will take you back here, and I did allude to this. I am not entirely sure quite why I was insecure as a small child, but clearly I was. And I remember one of my earliest memories was uh, realizing, okay, hearing my mom tell me and my family members tell me that I was like my grandma. And we're talking about my dad's mom here. So my mom would say, you're just like your grandma. And it's the whole thing. I am like my dad's mom. And it's true, definitely. um, but when my mom was saying it, my mom had a typical mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship with her mother-in-law, and they didn't get on very well. They were very, very different people, and they didn't see eye to eye. They didn't get on. And definitely when my mom said this to me, I heard her, oh, you're just like your grandma kind of thing in this. And I overheard her. I knew she didn't like my grandma. I overheard her talking to a friend. I knew, it was common. Again, it's a theme in our family. My grandma's long dead now, but my mom and her didn't get on very well. I knew she didn't like my grandma, and I heard her, she said to me, you're like your grandma. And this was when I made that decision. It was like I put two and two together and made goodness knows what, 110, and decided that that must mean, if I'm like my grandma and my mom doesn't like my grandma, that must mean my mom doesn't like me. And it didn't. That's not true. My mom loves me. I know that. That absolutely is not true. But that was the conclusion I came to as a small child. So I decided, right, I cannot be like my grandma. I cannot be me. If there is something coming through me, it's wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. It's not how you should be. And so from a very, very young, I was trying to block my own guidance, I guess, my own knowing, my own whatever you want to call that, whatever it was. It's like, and everything, I was policing everything, if you like. Okay, I am outgoing. I love being on a stage. The summits that we do, I adore speaking at those summits. We run a conference every year. I love having a microphone and being up on that stage. And so as a child, when I wanted to be out there, if I wanted to be performing in any way or anything, it was literally like, no, you can't do that. And so there was this whole fight thing going on with me, I think, my whole life, what nature, what was coming through, my own intuition, my own knowing, and then this policing of, no, don't be like that. So what that led to was becoming a skilled, like top-notch people pleaser. Really brilliant at it. I will be whatever you want me to be. And that led me to getting into a really, really, really unhealthy relationship, an abusive relationship, and very abusive. And for various reasons, other things that had happened, life has lots of tangles and twists. But anyway, for various reasons, I also made the decision that come hell or high water, I was going to stay in this relationship and I was going to make it work. And so I did. Well, I didn't make it work. I stayed in the relationship, and I stayed in that relationship for over 20 years. And I had 3 children, and those children were brought up in this. I mean, I'm sure you're getting, I was not being me. I was not allowed to be me. I was not the authentic me. I was a people pleaser. It was a nasty, vile dynamic. It was toxic. It was, my children did not have a good upbringing. They did not have a good life. They did not have it easy at all. And by the time when my first daughter was, how old would she have been? 16, we made the decision, and this was my partner wanted to get me away from everything, take the family away from everything we knew. Typically in those situations, it's isolate, too many people here, will move. So that's when I was born in the Midlands, in the UK, in the Midlands, and we moved to Devon. And I sent my daughter, it had got dangerous for her to be at home. And so rather than leaving this relationship, I sent my daughter to live with my sister and moved down to Devon with my other 2 children. And my middle daughter so I've got 2 daughters and a son. My son is the youngest. And my middle daughter is quite a different kettle of fish to my eldest daughter. My eldest daughter is very much like me, and she was people pleasy and everything like this. My middle daughter, no, quite feisty, I don't think so. And so, and as with my eldest daughter gone, the focus sort of came onto my middle daughter, and she was getting the brunt of a lot of the not great stuff going on in our family. But she wasn't playing ball. She wasn't liking this. She was asking questions, kicking back. And so it actually got quite dangerous, because the situation we were in before, because there was a lot of people pleasing going on, there was some, it ramped up the violence. What my other daughter, what she was bringing to the dynamic, kind of ramped up the violence, if you like. And so that was when I eventually left the relationship, because it became impossible to be there. And she wasn't serious, but she actually had a couple of attempts at taking her life. And definitely it was one of the cry for help kind of, I don't think she ever intended to take her life, but she really, really, really didn't know what to do. She was in a terrible, terrible mess, and didn't know what to do. And the situation in the house, this is just a kind of a snapshot of the situation in the house.
Sure.
So she's in this terrible situation. I know how much she is struggling, and I really want to help her. We don't have a great relationship because of everything that's going on, but she's talking to me and telling me she's going to take her own life, and I'm like, right, I need to do something here. What do I do? And so I decided to go to the doctors. I thought maybe if I took her to the doctors, there would be some help there. Now, it wasn't as simple as just deciding to take her to the doctors and go, because in our house, you had to, he would have potentially come with me to the doctors, or he would have taken her to the doctors or something like that. And I'm like, right, I have to be at the doctors with her on my own. And she was 17 at this point. My little daughter was 17. So my other daughter had been living with my sister for quite some time, my eldest daughter, sorry. And so I told her to pretend to be ill during the night. And both of us went into the bathroom and locked ourselves in the bathroom for a bit and just sat there. And then I came out and I said to him, oh, it's girl stuff, it's period stuff, it's stuff like this, but something's not right. She's really, really poorly. I think I need to take her to the doctors. And he agreed that I could go to the doctors with her on my own, because of the situation and what it was. So that's how we had to get out of the house on our own to be able to speak to a doctor. So we did that. We went to the doctors. And when we were in the doctors, it was a little bit like, obviously there was nothing physically wrong here, but she started to cry, and I was like, there's I don't know, my daughter's, she's in a terrible mess. I don't know what to do. And I mean, what year was this? I mean, I've been out of that relationship that was probably 2008 or 9, something like that. So quite a good while ago. But basically, the doctor just sat there and said, "Who's ill here? Why are you here? Who's poorly? I don't understand why you're here." And both of us were literally falling apart in the doctor's surgery.
Sure.
He's like, I don't get it. He said, it doesn't sound like there's anybody who's poorly here. I don't understand why you've come to my surgery. And I think my daughter was just at the end of her tether with this at this point. So she actually ran out of the doctor's surgery. She just screamed and ran out of the doctor's surgery. I guess she felt she wasn't being heard. She wasn't. And she physically bumped into a neighbour of ours, like she hit a neighbour as she ran out of the doctor's surgery. She nearly knocked over a neighbour of ours. Actually, this neighbour was in anyway. And this neighbour, she knew what was going on. She'd seen this, and she was waiting for a way that she could help us. So when my daughter bumped into her, she bundled us into her car and took her to her house. What did we do next? Basically, that was we then orchestrated a way that we could actually leave, me and my son. And so we ended up, we rang what was at that point called Women's Aid, and we went to a refuge. So that was how I left the relationship. So that's kind of like a snapshot of what the relationship, I'm not talking, a little bit of not niceness. It was tough.
Yes. Yes. So can I interject here and ask you a question? So with the, because you talk about people pleasing, and oh yeah, I've been here. And people pleasing is really rooted in a lot of insecurity. Rooted, there's also fear there. So as you were in this relationship, a toxic environment, if I can say that, toxic environment, were you able to make the connection between, hey, this relationship I'm in is what is creating a lot of this issue over here? I think I need to get out of this. I know you said you were in it for 20 years, but when did the awareness, despite the fact that yes, you took your daughter there and you saw she wanted to go, all of these things, when did the inner awareness, the resolve inside of you think, okay, I got to do something because this just isn't working?
I think it was literally then when I left. I mean, I I toyed with the idea of leaving over the years many, many, many times,
Mhm.
um, but never, obviously never done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
And you were afraid. There was
yeah.
fear. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely terrified, absolutely terrified. And I've worked a lot with women who've been in abusive relationships because I totally understand, I love my children and I loved my children then. And in spite of everything that was going on for them, and one of the things that I see with the work that I do now and where I am now, we can't do more than who we are being, if you like, at our core, who we believe ourselves to be, who we are. We can't do things, or certainly not long term outside, on the outside, if you like, until something changes in here. And so and I don't think anyone in my world, or certainly no one I can, that was never addressed. It was, nobody ever spoke to me about that kind of thing. And people would often say, oh, you should leave this relationship. But it was, they're definitely, we create our own prisons. I know that now. And I had created a prison of steel bars, and it was like, I can't. And with
Mhm.
where I was internally, who I was being, and the fear that I was living in, I couldn't. And it is a really strange thing. I actually read a book about a guy, and this is about the leadership and this kind of stuff. And there was this man who was this was in an airplane, and it's like the pilot of the airplane is like God. You obey, the pilot has the last word, and whatever you. And this is a real thing. This was actually a plane crash that actually happened, and they, from the black box and what they know happened. And there was this guy who was sort of quite down the food chain, and he knew this plane was going to crash. He knew that they didn't have enough fuel. He knew that. But in the place that he was and who he was, he had not got the right to speak to the captain to say that this was going on. And so that plane crashed and people perished. But that's what it's like. It's kind of, and when you look at that from the outside, you think, what? This guy
Mhm.
knew that this plane was going to crash and he couldn't. What do you mean he couldn't? You'd barge into the pilot's room, and kind of say, "Hey, we're going to run out of fuel." But for whatever reason, the way that we work, we cannot outperform on the outside who we truly believe ourselves to be on the inside. In that way, we can't, and it is literally like. It is like something physical. It's not physical, but it does feel like physical bars stop us from doing that. And I think um, having been through what I have been through, I really know that when I'm with people, it's like, okay, there is no point just saying to the person, do this. There has to be, what we need to do is come back. And that to me is what the principles help me to understand. Right, let's come back. If we make the changes here, then it will have an impact here. But if we try to have an impact here without changing here, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen.
And
So
that brings me to the analogy of like a tree. So a tree with good fruit will have good roots into it.
yes.
But if the roots are not there and the roots are, well, just not there, or the roots are, moldy and they're breaking and they're not connected to the tree or whatever, there won't be the fruit that is there. And I guess we could almost, we can even just, move forward through your story, is that really there's like mindset shifts that had to happen. There had, emotional healings with you that had to happen. Even just spiritual understandings had to happen, I think, for you to be where you are right now. So as you transitioned out of that relationship, how then in the world did these three principles come into being? And what did the healing journey look like for you? Because there was definitely a healing there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, so it was about a year and a half after I'd left the relationship, and I was in a pretty desperate state because I was trying to. All three of my youngest, my son was 9 at the time, my middle daughter was 17, and my eldest daughter was 21, and um, obviously they had all been through goodness knows what. None of and I was in the space. How on earth do I parent these young adults, this, young boy? How do I do this? I have no clue how to do this. I don't know. I don't even know what color I like. I haven't, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like to eat. I've just taken that from other people. How do I do this? So I was desperately looking for something, looking for a way to help. And I'd had a lot of counseling through Women's Aid, which was incredible. There was some that was helpful and some not so much, but I'd had a lot of support, but I was like, I have no idea what to do. So I was looking online, and I came across this guy, Jamie Smart, who had come across the principles, and he was completely turning his business around. He was dropping everything that he was doing to now teach the principles. So he was putting out some free stuff for people to sample what these 3 principles were, to kickstart this new business he was doing. So I just came across, I was just searching online, Googling, whatever, and I came across, I guess to me, it just feels like divine intervention, that I came across this guy. And anyway, I was cleaning holiday cottages at the time to try and bring in some money, and I would just listen. I had an iPod thing, and I would just listen whilst I was cleaning. And I was listening to what he was talking about, and I was listening to him talking about Sydney Banks. I was listening to him talking about the principles. And this is one of those things, I've listened back to the thing that I listened to, and it doesn't say what I heard. But
I'm understanding that. Okay.
But what I heard was, your children aren't broken, you aren't broken, this can all be fixed. And up until this point, with the counseling that I'd had, I'd been told that my children had PTSD, they'd got after effects from what they'd been through, they would always have problems their entire life, they could be taught to cope, but with everything that they had been through, the likelihood that they would be perfectly normal adults, was pretty slim. They've got a lot of problems, all of this. And so I was in this, I absolutely detested myself. I had such self-hatred. And I think the only reason I didn't take my own life at this point was because I felt that would be something else for them to deal with. And I thought, right, you've got to step up here and do something. So I'm listening, and I hear this, and I hear really, really clearly, they're not broken. They are not broken. And I think that question that you're asking, I think it was that moment that I realized that those prison bars were made up. They weren't physical. It wasn't like there was a brick wall that I needed to get through. It was like there was a thought wall, if you like. And it's like, yeah, that's like smoke and mirrors. That's doable. You can do that. And I fell on the floor. I was actually mopping the floor in the kitchen at the time, and I fell on the floor. I don't know how long I laid on the floor in this cottage, and I was sobbing. Obviously, I must have finished the cleaning, and I just went home. And I think my children thought I'd gone mad, because I was just saying, you're okay, you're okay, I'm okay, it's okay, everything's okay, it's fine, everything's fine. And because I'd even seen in that moment, I had seen why my husband had done what he had done. I was like, oh, he was never doing it to me. That was never what was going on. The whole idea that I was in, that someone, it was a dynamic, there was lots of learning and lots I could share about that, but just the seeing, oh, we're all innocent players in this thing, and we can play differently. We can recreate, we can do something different. And it became obvious that what I'd heard, I couldn't articulate it well. And my children, well, my friends, a lot of people kept sitting me down and saying, you do know what everybody's been through, right? They can't be okay. You do know that it isn't okay. And you do know this sort of, with the best of intentions. And so I thought, right, I need to find a way I need to understand this more so that I can articulate what I've heard. I knew something in me, I changed on that day. Completely changed, and it was like, right, I need to find a way to articulate this. And so I made it my mission. And if realistically, I think that was the moment, probably it wasn't a business then, and I didn't do it like that, but I think that was the moment that Dare to Be You and this was born. It was like, I have to find a way to articulate what I've heard, because there are too many people on doing what I'm doing in the position I'm in, whether it's, you know, even more so than me, even deeper into this, even, you know, in even a worse state, you know, people who like physically, me and my children are okay. We have bruises and things like that, but that heals. We didn't have anything permanent. But you know, some of the people that I've worked with since, permanent things happen. You know, boiling water is thrown at people, things, you know, things. And so it's like I need to articulate this. And then there are people who are just mildly in this, you know, they're people pleasers, and they, you know, they have no idea who they are. They have no idea what their potential for life, what they could do, what's within them. And so on all ranges, really, it's like I need to learn how to articulate this. So I spent years and years then, with no money and no idea really what I was doing, very much going inside, learning about who I was, getting everything and anything I could find about the principle, speaking to anyone about it, trying to make sense of it, and learning. And I think, I honestly, as I said, I don't think I know everything, but I honestly think I have a reasonable understanding of what this is pointing to. That is now, I can speak about this now in a way that is helpful to people. And at some point, with people coming to me, it did become a business.
Sure, sure. So what are the three principles? Like I can hear people now going, okay, the three principles sound like it really changed her life, but I have no idea what the three principles are. So what are the three principles?
They are a metaphor in what the actual three principles, the words and the names. They are a metaphor that explains how we get to experience life. And so the names that they are given, and you know, you can call them any names you like, but the names that they are given are mind, thought, and consciousness. And a relatively easy way to articulate that is, mind is like the power behind life, the God, the 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 intelligence behind life, if you like, the whatever the main creator, that's mind. And then thought points to the fact that as human beings, we think. We have this ability to think. We have the spiritual gift of thought. So thought isn't pointing to the content of our thinking, more the fact that we think. We are thinkers. And consciousness is awareness. It's like we are aware that we think. We are aware of this intelligence. And a good sort of example, a good metaphor really to sort of make it make sense, is the metaphor of the cinema. So back in the day when I was a kid, I don't know how cinemas work now with all this digital stuff, but back in the day when I used to go to the cinema, there was a room at the back of the cinema that a light came out of, and there was a screen and you sat in the middle somewhere and looked at the screen. So it's like, if you think of mind would be the electricity, the power that you know, without that, nothing would go on. If there was no power in the cinema, nothing would happen. There would be no film. So mind is like that, the power that makes everything possible. And then thought is like the film that is in the projector that's in the projection room at the back. Thought is like the film. And then consciousness is like the light. So the power makes the light go on, the thoughts are in the film, and the light brings it and puts it on the screen in front of you. And it's a great analogy, because that's exactly how life feels. Like life doesn't feel like it comes from somewhere. It feels like it comes at you from here. I feel like it's coming at you. But how it actually works is it's internal. You know, it's the thoughts that are projected out there that look as if they're coming towards you. And so really seeing that, oh, okay, my thinking, this film that I am playing, consciousness is bringing it to life and projecting it out there. So it looks like I'm walking towards it or it's coming towards me. Whereas in actual fact, when my thinking changes, when I think something different, if you think of the film analogy, if you were watching a comedy and then you take that film reel out and put a horror movie in, you're going to get horror. You know, one minute you'll have comedy on the screen, the next minute you'll have horror on the screen. And that is because of the film reel. The film reel is what makes that happen. So it's seeing whatever you're seeing out there is coming from what's going on in here. And if what's going on in here changes, what's going on out there changes. And that's that's basically what the principles point us to. So if we can, and it's not saying we have to meddle with or change our thinking. It is more about understanding that that's what's happening. The understanding somehow creates space for something else to occur, and our thinking will naturally change. I mean, there are, we could go into this for hours and hours, but
we definitely could. So with your situation, with your healing journey out of that and realizing who you are, walk us through some of that with the principles. What did, like, some aha moments, or like oh, today, well, I was thinking this and I realized this, or take us through some of those things to show the practical application of it.
Okay. So one of the realizations as I started to see this, if I think, I started to notice, even during the day, even on a normal day, you know, if I got up and thought, oh, it's raining, it's miserable, oh, it's going to be one, you can feel the energy of that thought. And then if I wake up and, you know, without anything being different, oh, it's raining, but, you know, I'm warm in here, I've got plenty to do, I'm glad because I don't, you know, I'm not going out. If I thought about that differently, I felt about it differently. And it wasn't even, I didn't even have to necessarily do that, but just seeing if I would feel bad, I would feel better. It's like, wow, that's interesting. And one of the things I realized, and I shared this at the beginning, was I had the realization that I had overheard. My mum had said I was like my grandma. I'd overheard her saying those things, and then I had thought, my mum doesn't love me, I can't be me. And it's like, oh, I thought that. I made that up. I came to that conclusion. And because it was in my head, because it was a thought, I didn't realize that I didn't have to believe it. Nobody had ever told me that I don't have to believe my thinking. You know, I can think, oh, you're a useless piece of rubbish. Oh, no, I don't have to believe that if I don't want to. And so I think it was that piece in the principles. It's like, just because a film is on the screen, you don't have to watch it, you don't have to believe it, you don't have to be pulled into it, you don't have to be taken in by it. It's like, just because, if I had had that thought and dismissed it, my entire life would have been different. But I had that thought. I had no idea that I didn't have to believe it. I believed it to be true. And so every single thing that I did next came from that. And it's like, wow.
God, you could undo a whole lot of like life
Yeah.
situations
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
if you think that way. So I'm just going to ask some questions here. So, like with when you said, you know, I don't have to believe this, the type of thoughts that were coming in your mind were linked, though, right? Would you say that they just randomly came up in you, or were they linked to your life situations? It's kind of for your thought processes.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know why we think the way, I don't know why the thought, my mum doesn't love me, occurred to me. I don't know why it happens that way. I'm not sure. I don't know that. Um, and definitely there is an element of, I doubt the thought my mom doesn't love me would have occurred. I mean, there are millions of situations. I'm sure there are loads and loads of people around the world who think my mom doesn't love me for whatever reason.
Uh-huh.
But when I look, there was just as much evidence in my life that my mom did love me.
Uh-huh.
You know, I say that my mom, my mom is still alive. I have a great relationship with my mom. My mom is a lovely person, and she, you know, she was doing her best. There was just as much evidence that she did love me. So I have no idea why I had that thought. I don't know why. But what I see, and I guess we all have random thinking, anybody you speak to, we just have crazy,
Oh my God.
random thinking. And I can see the times in my life when I have had crazy random thinking and not believed it, not gone there, not believed it to be true. And if you go back to the situation that I shared about that guy in that airplane, who he clearly had the thought, where I am in this in this hierarchy, I can't do that. And to him, that thought looked real. So much so that he was prepared to die and let other people die, rather than, that's how concrete it looked. That's how real it looked. So for some reason, the thinking that we have and certain thoughts look real and true to us. But to me, what coming across the principles has done for me, and what I have seen it do for lots of people, is understanding, okay, that's what's going on. That's what's going on. And you can question that thought. If your life isn't working in some way, you can question the thoughts that are keeping you in that place. And it is really, really strange because, like you say, it is like thought patterns happen, and we pack thought upon thought. And it was, in that moment when I had the realization that my children weren't broken and I wasn't broken, it was almost like a kingpin of thought, if you like, was pulled out, and a ton of thought collapsed, because that one thought was keeping, if it is like, well, if this is true, then this is true, 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 this is true. And it's like, well, if that one isn't true, it's like a house of cards. So much collapses. So I think with the realization, just because a thought is in your head, that alone is not enough to make it real and true. Just because a thought lands in your mind, that doesn't make it real and true. And you can decide whether you want to focus into that thought. Because if we go back to we cannot outdo who we are being, and who we are being consists of who we believe, the thoughts we're believing. If I believe that I am no good, and I really truly believe that I am no good, I can't do things that a person who believes they are good can do.
Totally makes sense. Totally and completely makes sense. So how do you know when you're believing the the thought? Okay, I mean, like, seriously, like, so let's say somebody wants to grow their finances. Okay, let's say, because this is a thing, people want to grow their finances. I'm one who wants to grow my finances. So we'll talk about me. So I believe that abundance and prosperity is everywhere. I really believe that. I actually can see that. I can see it in nature. I can see it in my daily life. I can see different things. But when it comes to making money, or when it comes to, don't you love this, this sort of thing, I don't understand why, if I believe truthfully that abundance is everywhere, then why is there still a struggle in the areas of financial prosperity? Because somewhere there has to be, something's not clicking. Do you see what I'm saying? Something's not, because I don't walk around with thoughts of I'm poor and I have no money, and I don't do that. I say, oh, I'm so abundant. There's prosperities everywhere. I mean, and I actually can feel that in my body. It's like, wow, yes. And then I'm like, well, why over here? Isn't it showing it in this form anyway?
Yeah. So this is an interesting one, because this has definitely been like, the transformation in my life is unbelievable. Like, to finish the story, like, I have 3 amazing adult children now. I've got 4 grandchildren. I have a great relationship with all 3 of my children. They're brilliant. They're out in the world. They're doing great, amazing things. They're not damaged. They don't have they're great. They have stories, they have maybe places they go to, but it's just like, oh yeah, that's that place I'm going to. They're great. And the same for me. I'm in a really healthy, lovely relationship now. And one of the things was, it felt like a real a leftover, like a residue from this not being good enough thing was, yeah, you can't, you'll never be abundant in money, whatever it was. And so I was really, really curious about that. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And rather like you, it felt like I got rid of all my thinking in that, I don't feel like I sit here worrying about that kind of thing. I don't sit, like that, whatever. It's like, well, that's really, really fascinating. Um, but and what I have seen over the time, and definitely there's been huge shifts in this area for me. But it's been really, really fascinating to notice. What did I notice the other day? I was seeing something the other day. I noticed that I could see all this abundance, believe in all this abundance, think this abundance, and then I just saw this little thought that I had about myself in that. Some kind of, and that was the first time I think that thought is like, oh, I think I still have a residue thought there. I still have a thought that I shouldn't have that money somehow. There was still something there. And I think we have that in, I don't think it necessarily shows up like the thought that showed up for me, my mum doesn't love me. I don't think everybody who ends up in an abusive relationship, that's the thought that starts it. I don't,
Sure.
various things. I think it's different things. But one of the things with thought, like when Sydney Banks says a lot, it's all thought. It's all thought. So there isn't anything that isn't made of the energy of thought, if you like. It's all thought. And some of the things, like what I noticed was, yeah, I see this abundance, I have this abundance and everything, but I still had the thought, but I don't quite have enough. And that looked true. And if you looked at the numbers in my bank account, you'd be like, yeah, but I can prove this is true. I can, it is true. There isn't enough. It's not, I don't have this. Don't. And so I am keeping the truth of that thought alive because, and it's a little bit like the cycle of abuse. Where does it start? It's a circle, it's a cycle. It's like, kind of like, where do we, and when you look at the money thing, it's almost like, I don't have enough money. I have the proof that I don't have enough money, which leads to this, which leads to this, which leads to this, which leads me back to this. And it is like a circle. And it's like, okay, where can we unpick that and stop that circle? I can see the abundance here, I can see it here, I can see it here, I can know it in nature, I can know it, but I still have this whole circle going on. And it's like, right, okay. And one of the thoughts, as I say, there was a couple that I began to see, but one of them definitely was, well, my bank account proves that I don't have enough money.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like, oh, you think that is real and true. And what I can see is when I have thinking, I can do quite easily, I can do the impossible in relationships. It can look like, yeah, this is how it is. That person is doing this, they're saying this, that's true. I can, that's how it is. And I can go, yeah, if I think differently, that will be different. And I can think differently. Somehow the numbers in my bank account, it's like, yeah, they're true. Money is, oh, and I think that is a tricky one for a lot of people because it looks, somehow, whatever, it looks even more real.
It almost like it has an outcome to it. Do you see, like you can actually see the outcome. You open your account online, you look, there's the outcome, and it's like, wait a minute. And I know that that's not true. Like I do, but somewhere I and countless other people feel in some ways powerless because what I'm hearing through this whole discussion with you is you got your power back, right? the three principles, and it's understanding, the understanding of how you can dismiss thoughts and take thoughts. The creation of your own reality is up to you. There's a lot of powerful pieces in that. It gives you, you're empowered, okay, with what you're saying. But it's so interesting in this one area where it's like, if I can be empowered over, I know I'm similar to you in some ways. I've come out of a whole lot of crap. And I mean, it's a miracle I am where I am, but I still get hung up on something over here. And you're like, well, gosh, I was nearly almost dead over in this situation. Doesn't that one look like a little bit bigger than like the numbers in the bank account?
Yeah.
But there must be something, because there is something, even just universal, I think, in our society around money.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether it being evil, whether it being all the billionaires have it, everybody else has it, I don't have it, I got to work and slave to have it, they don't. There seems to be a separation somehow between the belief of abundance and prosperity is unlimited and all around us, what we're allowed to access, Ellen or Deb or somebody's allowed to access in that field.
Definitely. And there is, for whatever reason, there are certain things that, and like you say, money is definitely one of them. And I definitely think as a collective, there is and it is seeing we are the ones giving that power. Because I know when I started when obviously I've shared a little bit about my relationship, and I and I still can see. So I have nothing but love for my ex-husband. We're not together. I don't really see him or anything like that. Anyway, but there's complete forgiveness there. And I do not, obviously, to describe it and to talk about it and things like this, I talked about it in those terms. It does not look to me like I was in an abusive relationship. It looks to me like I was coming from fear. Everything within me was fear-based. My own insecurity and fear created all of that. If I hadn't have got into that situation, this could not have happened. I know that. And it's like, oh, okay. So, and me changing, I've really seen with my children, me changing changes them. We are, when you look at quantum physics, we are not separate. There is no separation. And so when something within the whole changes, the whole changes. And so what I'm seeing around money is, okay, I am still, however much, and my mind will trick me and say, no, you've seen it, you can see abundance, you know everything, you know this abundance. And so basically in the last 6 months, something massive has dropped away from me around money. So this is quite...
This is wonderful. I was not going to bring this up at all. So somehow we're in it. Okay.
And it's like, oh, and this is what I mean. It's beginning that same thing, like the whole abuse dynamic, like that whole thing, and the pieces of it falling away, and the healing was that absolutely more and more and more of it. I didn't like in that the first moment when I saw something, not everything dropped away, and I still was in fear. And one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning here, so last year, it just occurred to me a little bit like a divine intervention, if you like. I just had this thought to make a commitment and to live from love, not fear. And specifically that love, not fear, to live from love, not fear. And it just occurred to me. So I started doing it, and it was just personal at first. It's like, and as soon as I had made that commitment and started to do that, I started to see places where I was still fearful, and money was one of them. It's like, and I hadn't, a little bit like you sort of saying, I know this, I know there's abundance, I know, I do too. And then it's like, yeah, and you've got fear here, you're coming from fear. And one of the things that I know for certain, as I said, I'm in a really healthy relationship now, and my kids are great and everything. And obviously we have family stuff, we've just had Christmas and New Year and goodness knows what, and people visit people and families and all of this sort of thing. Is there such a thing as a normal family? But we're a normal, there's family dynamics, there's stuff, and what I see is, if I if anyone's chuntering about someone for whatever reason, whatever it is, or there's something going on, if I go into the fear, then that gets worse. That thing, whatever that little chunter is, it grows, it gets more, whatever. If I stay rooted in love, that just has nowhere to go. It just disappears. And it's so what I saw around money was I can see it through the eyes of love. I can be in there, but I can't stay grounded in it when I look at my bank account. I can't stay grounded in it when someone says, as one of the reasons I actually set myself up for this, because I wanted to conquer the money thing. So we've bought this piece of land and we're trying to build a house. And when I decided that I was going to buy this piece of land, I had £45 in my bank account, and this piece of land was a little bit more than £45. I'm like, right, I know I can do miracles. If that was a relationship situation, I don't care how bad you say this is. There's something more. We are more than our humanness. There is a magic, you might call it, a divinity. I don't know. There is more here. And I can do something with that. I know how to do that. And it's like, it's the same. Nothing can be different. Nothing can be outside of that. And lo and behold, from the moment that I saw the land, to me owning the land was 18 months, 2 years maybe. And it's like, the story of how that happened blew my mind. I was like, how did I go from £45 in the bank, this piece of, we're talking, it's a building plot. I haven't got acres and acres and acres. I'm not talking millions. But what did the land, best £150,000, we're not talking £20. And I had £45 in my bank. That's like, oh, and that happened. I had the land. We've now got to build the house. And I hadn't thought that through. I hadn't thought that far ahead. It's like, right. Okay, so now you need the money. And it kept on relentlessly coming. Oh, we've got solar panels, we've got drainage in the ground, we've got stuff going on. And it would, when things like that come in, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's 10 grand, yeah, that's 5 grand. We need an architect, we need to talk to planning. Every time you pick up the phone to planning, oh yeah, that's £500. It's like, and so it was like, right, okay, what I saw when I made that decision about buying the land was, okay, I know this is going to press every fear button I've got left about this. And it really has over the last couple of years. It really, really has. But it has also, rather like going through the healing after all of that around the relationship, it's also really, really opening my eyes to it. And when this idea came to make this commitment to live from love, not fear, it was like, there's real magic in that, because as soon as I made the commitment, those places, I could say, look, I've seen this, I've seen so much, I've healed so much. Why? And it looks to me like I know this about money, but what's on the outside is telling me our life, like you said about the tree, the fruit on the tree doesn't lie. You can't say, oh, I've got deep roots, they're amazing. Yeah, your fruit is telling me different. And so it's like, well, okay, so there is still something here for me to see. So I was like, okay, I'm ready to see it. And the living from love, not fear, is really, it's opening my eyes. I'm seeing it, and I'm seeing the places where I'm being fearful. And it's like, okay, in those places where that fear is, walk into those places like you would in those places where you really know there is nothing to fear. Walk into those places without fear. And in the last week, we've just had, if the next part of the build that we want to do, there's some more groundwork that we need to do, and that piece of the groundwork, we thought it was going to be about 6 grand, and we've just had a bill. If we want to go ahead with it, we just had a quote. If we want to go ahead with it, it's going to be £15,000. And it was like, right, okay, if I look at my bank account and I look at this doesn't feel like it's going to work, and fear can easily arise. I was like, right, okay, if this was a relationship stuff, If this was this, what would you do? Would you believe the fearful thoughts? Would you go with the fearful thoughts? Or would you stay grounded in love? Over the last couple of days, this happened about a week ago, and this is going right, okay, would you stay absolutely grounded in love, trust? What would you do? In the last, yesterday, this guy came to see us about this, and it literally just became obvious. I was like, yeah, we're going to do this from a real peaceful place. I have zero idea. I'm very, very happy. Ask me. This is supposed to be now happening in February. So by March, by the time our conference is happening in March, I will be able to tell the story of how that happened, because I know it's happening. I know it is. We're going to pay that bill and we're going to do it.
So when you were staying with love, and I love this story, I can't believe we're on this topic, but anyway, when you were staying in love, what does that look like with money? Because I can understand like relationships, how to, like if I'm in a conflict with somebody, or something looks like I just, I can bless that person, I can forgive that person, so what does it look like with money? Do you treat money the same way? Do you like forgive your bank account? Do you like, I mean, I know this sounds ridiculous, but
yes, quite literally. Forgive myself, forgive my bank account, forgive, just because exactly like you're saying, you can see it's not like we can tell the story that the money isn't there. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Like you could look at my relationship all those years and say there wasn't love there, there wasn't connection there, there wasn't, all of that existed, but what was showing on the outside was growing, not from, if you look at love and fear, everything that we were growing in that relationship was rooted in fear. The roots of that tree were in fear. And because it's not a physical, it's a talking thing, you can swap those roots. It's not like a physical tree. So, but if you a metaphorical tree, the roots of that tree were in fear, but within a second you can swap the roots of that tree, you can pull them up and root them in love. And it's exactly the same when with money, with any of it. It's like, okay, within a second, and I can do the same. And exactly like you said, if you're with that person and you realize that what you are doing, where you are coming from, who you are being, is rooted in fear, you can switch it and root it in love. And it's like, oh, okay. And sometimes it definitely, for me, what I see is it is a practice. It's not something I couldn't, when I'm talking about this relation, that wasn't,
right.
It's a bit like a snakes and ladders game. We have insights, we have, our eyes get opened, we see something huge, we go up the board massively, and then we have a little bit of a setback. But the great thing about a snakes and ladders board is a snakes and ladders board was created to be weighted in favor of winning. Like if you carry on playing snakes and ladders, you will always get to 100. You might go down a snake and tip the board and say, that's it, I'm done, when you're in a bad place because it feels that everything's against you. But if you were to continue to play, it's weighted in your favor. And this is the same. If we want to see something, if we want to see through our money blocks, if we want to see through our relationship blocks, if we tip up the board when we're in a bad place, maybe we won't see them, but the game is weighted in your favor. If you are prepared to keep on playing, and this is what I'm seeing with the house. I know my house is going to be built. It might take another 4 or 5 years because I might have some shit that I need.
That's all right.
I might have some stuff that I need to see through to do that. And this is what I'm seeing. Right? Okay. And each time I see through this, like we do have solar panels on our roof. We do have like the static caravan, this caravan we had. There are so many things that we have paid for since buying the land and completely wiping out every single penny. I had to put my hand down the back of the sofa to pay the last bill with buying the land. But it keeps on. It continues. It continues. It continues. And the more that I see that continuation, the more that I see, there is nothing that I can't see through. There is nothing that I can't. I am, as human beings, who we are, again, the same way the game is weighted for us. We are more than these problems. These problems we are the ones that give them the energy to get bigger than us. And this is what I see around my relationship. I was the one that gave that the energy to become something bigger than me, but I always had it within me to be bigger than that. And this is the same. There is nothing different going on here. I am the one giving the energy to my empty bank account, and I am the one who has it within me to be bigger than that. And I always have that. We always, whether we see through it and do it, but that's never not true. We are never not, we're stronger than that. We are more than that. We are bigger than that. And it's like we have it within us to do that, to change that, to turn that around always. And that can never, never change. And so to me, the game here is, right, oh, so how? I did it here. What did I do? I thanked, I forgave, I loved, I rooted myself in love. And the more I've become rooted in love with this, the things that I am seeing, it's, yeah, it's just, it's so beautiful to see what is coming.
Because love never fails, right? Love never fails. You win when you're in love. And I don't mean winning in like a selfish way, but
So,
you win according to your birthright. I mean, your
yeah,
birthright is to win, to have success, to
exactly.
be abundant and prosperous in all areas, spirit, soul, body, right? Like that is our inheritance. That's our birthright from the beginning in the ethers when we incarnated here. And it was like we were sent here to remember that. Like, and I think that this has been such a joyous conversation, because what you're calling people to is to remember who you are. What you're calling people to is to remember that you're powerful. You're not disempowered. We are not disempowered beings. We've got the divine flowing through us. I mean, come on, like, you know what I mean? So like as I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, I'm getting excited inside, and there's an empowering piece to your conversation. And this is a great way to start 2026, because we can leave behind the disempowerment, and we can, and it's a choice. That's what you're
Yeah,
really, and I want to say this too, because I know we're gonna have to close here soon, but I think sometimes when we look at thought and we look at what you're talking about, it brings us to the fact that we are responsible. Like there's a responsibility piece,
yes.
and nobody wants responsibility, right? Like who wants to think that, well, I played a role in that? It was
Mm,
Joe Schmo and this person over here, and it was XYZ and ABC doing it. But that is so disempowering, because then you're making everything to look so big around you. And so what it feels like you're calling us to, and the three principles, I love them: mind, conscious, thought, I love it, or God, whatever you want to call it. Um, it's taking ownership again. It's taking ownership of what we want in our life. It's taking ownership of what we don't want in our life. Like we're owning our stories, really. We're owning our destinies in different ways. When we realize, gosh, it really is up to that thought. We're like one thought away from like
absolutely, absolutely. And the more that we
yeah.
open to that possibility, the more that possibility is likely to arise in us. That thought that we can have, you know, that whatever it is, we can see that. Because as I said, yeah, and how you so beautifully said as well, we are designed, we're whatever, top of the food chain, whatever you want to call it, we are designed to be bigger. If we see ourselves as grasshoppers, there's a thing in the Bible, yeah, but
That
if
is,
we
that's
see
in
ourselves,
Deuteronomy. Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. If we see ourselves as grasshoppers, guess what we're going to be? But we're grasshoppers. You know, we put out there that, oh, the way this person is looking at me makes me a grasshopper. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. The only thing that can make you a grasshopper is you seeing that. You know, when I had that thought, my mom doesn't love me, believing that thought made me a grasshopper. I did that. I did it. And it's like, wow, if I hadn't have believed that thought, it couldn't have happened this way. And so it was like, you know, I had the thought, I want to buy a piece of land. I then had the thought, that is absolutely ridiculous. I was really, really, really careful in those first until I got really strong in my knowing, I was incredibly careful about who I shared that with, because I felt stupid. If someone had said, well, how are you going to do that?
That question, how?
Yeah, how are you going to do that? And if someone had looked closely at what was going on for me, it would be like, well, how the hell are you going to do that, sort of thing. And because I knew what was sitting in my bank, if someone had pushed me, like, I could have said, well, I've got, 300 million pounds in a bank account over here, whatever, but, I didn't. And so it was like, right, okay, I am going to get certain in my knowing of this before I say anything outwardly. I did want to share it outwardly a bit, because what I had seen through sharing the story of what I went through with my relationship, it's an incredibly powerful story and people get a lot from it. But one of the reasons I like to share a little bit like we have today, the truth about what's actually going on, it's like, I want you to know where I am in this moment. So when my house is built, when that bill is paid, I have no idea how we're going to pay it. We've decided and we said yes to this guy, and this guy's coming and doing this work. And it's going to be fine. I have zero fear about it. It's going to be fine. I don't know how, but it's like, okay, I want to share it beforehand. And we've had a few bills with this, like various things that I've shared with my community and things. It's like to see, this will work out. Don't let fear shrink you. Don't have that thought that you haven't got this, that this isn't good enough, that there's something, even that I'm missing something. What is this? No, you're not. You're not a grasshopper there. You are not. And it's like any thoughts that take you, we have this idea that we need to face reality. No, we don't need to face reality. We need to create the reality we want. And so if we are looking at something going, well, the reality, I looked at my relation, well, the reality is I'm stuck, this is that, he does this, that's the reality. And I faced that reality for 20 years. Then I decided not to face the reality anymore. I decided to create a new one. I've been facing the reality of my finances for many, many years, and I don't want to face that reality anymore. I'm creating.
Me either. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like over it. Like,
over facing.
I have too big. My dreams are so big, and
mine too.
Wanting to do are so big, and I know that like money is important for those certain things to happen, and I'm not willing to relinquish on the dream, which is so fascinating in the scheme of it, because like I can like be really agitated at the financial piece, but if somebody were to say to me, well, then you just have to let the dream go. What the hell are you talking about? No, we're not doing that. That is not happening.
And that's like me with the house.
Yeah, it's like, that is non-negotiable. I'm not negotiating at that table. Okay, I'm playing a different poker game here. I always have a full house and win, so like the dreams, but how to get there is where I'm finding some of the negotiation happening. And I'm like, wait a minute, we gotta like hold up. I gotta revamp some of this. So this has been such a joyous conversation, because I feel like I could talk forever. But I am gonna have to go here soon. Yes, but I may bring you, back on, and we can, at another time later in the year. But I just want to say thank you for just being just candid and real, and following the line of questions I had, and just going and just being you, and just doing it, and being an example of things. Because there's going to be people that are going to say, I can't get out of this relationship, and they're going to hear your story. And then they're gonna be like, oh my God, if it can happen for you, we've all heard this said, if it can happen for you, well, then it can happen for me too. And I feel like you've given us just a little brief intro to all the inner workings of mind, thought, consciousness, and how it works. But you've put the responsibility in our hands, that we actually are here to steward our lives and steward the earth. So we are here. And I don't think any of us want to look like grasshoppers anymore in our own eyes. But it also, and here's one last thing, it also says in that scripture that we were then grasshoppers in their eyes.
Yes.
It goes on further, even down the, so then comes the powerless piece, and it's like, okay. So anyway, I just want to say thank you, Deb, for just being here, and for your testimony, and for sharing so openly and candidly, and just being you. So now, before I go, you talk a little bit about Dare to Be You and this conference that is coming up, so that like if people, my listeners want to join, where they can find you, all of that good, wonderful stuff.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, our business is Dare to Be You, and it's DARE, and then the number two, the letter B, and the letter U, Dare to Be You. daretobeyou.co.uk. Debra Simmons. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I'm sure if you reach out to Ellen, she'll tell you where we are. You can find us. We have our conference coming up in March in North Devon. It is the Conference of Love. It will be absolutely amazing. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be brilliant. And we do something, the Love Experiment. I have now opened that up and turned it into a community. I do videos on YouTube if you want to go it alone and you want to do it, or you can come into the community and join us and do it. And obviously we do all sorts of, we're always up to something at Dare to Be You. You're very welcome to come and reach out, speak to us, join us, ask any questions. Yeah.
So in March, when is it? When is it?
March the 4th to the 6th.
And that's an in-person event
It's an in-person event.
North Devon. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no online, like people can't do it online or.
No, it's definitely in the room. It's a 3-day event in the room, and yeah, there will be life-changing stuff going on in that room.
That's amazing. I will have to get to one of those. I have yet. I will be in the States at the time that this one happens. So
yeah, we do it every year, and it is roundabout. It's always it's the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that are around about the 4th, 5th, 6th, you know, those sorts of dates in March every year. So we've been doing it.
That's perfect.
I think it's about the 8th one. So
that's perfect. Well, thank you, Deb, for being here today. And
oh no, thank you. A massive, massive thank you. And thank you for having me. Thank you for this amazing conversation. I think it's incredibly helpful to have these conversations for all of us. So thank you for doing this. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.